The phone call came on a Tuesday afternoon, 3 days before Thanksgiving. I was folding laundry in my tiny apartment when my mother's voice cut through the speaker like a knife I'd felt 1,000 times before. Vanessa, your father and I discussed it. Don't come home for Thanksgiving this year. Your sister doesn't want any drama. I dropped the towel I was holding. My hands went numb. If you're watching this story unfold, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment about your own experiences with family. Your support means everything, and it helps us share more stories like this one. Now, let me tell you what happened next. I was 32 years old. I lived 400 miles away from my childhood home in Vermont, working as a graphic designer in a cramped studio apartment in Philadelphia. I hadn't missed a single Thanksgiving in my entire life. Not one. What drama? I managed to whisper. My mother sighed, that particular sigh she reserved for when I was being difficult. Vanessa, you know how Becca gets. She's pregnant again, and she just wants a peaceful holiday with her family. Last year you made that comment about her parenting, and she's still upset. The comment I'd made when my sister's 4-year-old was literally throwing food at the dinner table while she scrolled through her phone. I'd said gently, "Hey Becca, maybe put the phone down for a bit." That was it. That was the crime that had apparently sentenced me to exile, Mom. That was barely anything. I apologized to her 3 times after that. Well, it's her house now. She and Derek bought that place, and they're hosting. It's their decision. Their house. The family home where I'd grown up, where my father had built a treehouse in the backyard specifically for me when I was 7, where my mother had measured my height against a kitchen doorframe every birthday. That house had been sold to my sister and her husband 2 years ago for half its market value. To keep it in the family, my parents had said. I wasn't offered the chance to buy it. Nobody asked me, "What about Dad?" I asked, my voice cracking. "Does he feel the same way?" There was a pause. In that pause, I heard everything I needed to know. "Your father supports what's best for the family, Vanessa. We'll see you at Christmas, okay? We can do a nice dinner. Just the 4 of us. After Becca's family does their thing. After. Always after." I hung up without saying goodbye. For 2 days, I functioned on autopilot. I went to work, smiled at my coworkers, pretended the world wasn't crumbling around me. I called my best friend Morgan, who was spending Thanksgiving with her Yankees family in Colorado. She was furious on my behalf, but she was also 800 miles away. "Come here," she begged. "Please, you shouldn't be alone." But I couldn't. I couldn't impose on someone else's family gathering. Couldn't be the charity case at their table. My pride wouldn't allow it. On Thanksgiving morning, I woke up at 9 to a silent apartment. No smell of turkey roasting. No sound of the Macy's parade playing in the living room. No chaos of my mother orchestrating everything from the kitchen while my father pretended to watch football but actually set the table with meticulous care. I sat on my couch in my pajamas and cried. I cried for the little girl who used to wake up at dawn on Thanksgiving to help her mom make stuffing. I cried for the teenager who'd won the wishbone pull 7 years in a row. I cried for the woman I'd become, apparently so unwanted that her own family would rather erase her from the holiday than deal with my sister's fragile ego. At noon, I made a decision. I wasn't going to sit in this apartment and feel sorry for myself. I was going to get dressed, put on makeup, and go somewhere, anywhere that felt alive. I chose Marietta's, an Italian restaurant downtown that I'd walked past 100 times but never entered. It was the kind of place with white tablecloths and candles, where families went for special occasions. I made a reservation for one. The hostess looked surprised when I arrived. "Just you, ma'am?" "Just me." She seated me at a small table near the window. Around me, families filled the restaurant, grandparents and grandchildren, couples with babies, groups of friends laughing over wine. I ordered the turkey special and a glass of red wine, and I sat there trying very hard not to let anyone see me cry. The food came. It was beautiful, perfectly roasted turkey, creamy mashed potatoes, green beans with almonds, cranberry sauce that actually looked homemade. It looked exactly like the Thanksgivings I'd grown up with. I cut a piece of turkey, lifted it to my mouth, and put down my fork. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sit there, surrounded by all that love and laughter, and pretend I was okay with being alone. I couldn't do it. I was about to ask for the check to pack everything up and go home to eat it while crying over a rom-com when I heard a voice beside me. Honey, are you all right? I looked up. A woman stood next to my table, maybe in her early 60s, with silver hair pulled back in a loose bun and the kindest brown eyes I'd ever seen. She wore a burgundy sweater and pearl earrings, and she was looking at me with such genuine concern that something inside me broke. I'm fine, I lied, wiping my eyes quickly. Thank you. She didn't move. You're sitting here on Thanksgiving, crying over a beautiful meal you haven't touched. That doesn't look fine to me. Her directness should have felt intrusive. Instead, it felt like relief. Family stuff, I managed. I'm okay, really. She tilted her head, studying me. Then she turned and gestured to a large table across the room where I could see several people, a man around her age, a younger couple, two teenagers, and a college-aged girl. That's my family, she said. We're loud. We argue about politics. My son-in-law tells terrible jokes. And my granddaughter just informed us she's changing her major for the third time. But we have more than enough room, more than enough food, and nobody should be alone on Thanksgiving. Would you consider joining us? I stared at her. This was insane. People didn't do this, didn't invite complete strangers to family dinners. I couldn't possibly. Yes, you could. She smiled. I'm Patricia Chen, by the way. And before you say no, you should know that I'm incredibly stubborn, and I'm not leaving this spot until you say yes. Something about the way she said it, not pitying, not condescending, just matter of fact, made me laugh despite everything. I don't even know you, I said weakly. Perfect time to start. Come on. She extended her hand. After a moment, I took it. Patricia's family welcomed me like I'd been part of the plan all along. Her husband, Raymond, pulled over an extra chair. Their daughter, Iris, poured me a glass of wine from their bottle. The son-in-law, Marcus, did indeed tell a terrible joke about turkeys that made everyone groan. The teenagers' twins named Lily and Owen immediately started explaining their elaborate plan to convince their parents to let them go to a concert in New York. And the college girl, Jade, looked at me with understanding eyes and said quietly, "Family drama?" I nodded. Same, she said. My mom's side doesn't talk to us anymore. Long story. But these people? She gestured around the table. They're worth 1,000 blood relatives. Over the next 3 hours, I learned that Patricia had been a nurse for 40 years before retiring. Raymond was a retired high school history teacher who still volunteered at the local library. Iris worked in pharmaceutical sales, and Marcus was a contractor who'd built the deck on their house. Lily wanted to be a marine biologist. Owen was obsessed with photography. Jade was studying social work. They asked me about my life, my work, what brought me to Philadelphia. I told them not everything. Not about my parents' call or my sister's cruelty, but enough. They listened like it mattered. When Patricia brought out 3 different kinds of pie, pumpkin, apple, and pecan, Raymond leaned over and whispered conspiratorially, "She makes us vote on which one to eat first every year. It's a whole production. Because it matters, Raymond." Patricia called from the kitchen. "Pie order sets the tone." Everyone laughed. It was such a small moment, such a silly tradition, but it pierced right through me. This was what I'd been missing at my real family's table. Not the food or the decorations, the teasing and the warmth and the sense that everyone there was chosen, wanted, essential. When dinner was over and the table was cleared, I tried to help with dishes, but Patricia shooed me away. "Guest rules," she said firmly. "You sit." I sat in their living room with Jade, who showed me photos of her semester abroad in Spain. Lily and Owen argued about something on their phones. Marcus dozed off in the armchair. Raymond put on soft jazz music. It felt like home. At 9 o'clock, I finally said I should go. Patricia walked me to the door and took both my hands in hers. "Vanessa," she said. I'd told her my name hours ago, and she'd remembered it instantly. "I don't know what happened with your family, and you don't have to tell me. But I do know this. You deserve people who choose you, every single day." My throat tightened. "Thank you for today. I was in a really dark place when I came here. I could tell." She squeezed my hands. "Do me a favor. Take my number. Call me sometime not because you have to, but because you want to. I make terrible coffee but excellent conversation. I laughed through tears and saved her number in my phone. I never expected to use it. But 2 weeks later, when I was having the worst day at work and needed to vent to someone who wouldn't judge me, I found myself calling Patricia. She picked up on the second ring and listened to me complain for 20 minutes about a nightmare client, then made me laugh so hard I nearly snorted coffee through my nose. It became a thing. We talk every couple of weeks, sometimes about nothing, sometimes about everything. She told me about her nursing days, about losing her mother to cancer when Iris was young, about how she and Raymond had nearly divorced in their 30s before counseling saved them. I told her about my childhood, about always feeling like I came second to Becca, about the 100 small ways I'd been made to feel like I wasn't enough. She never told me what to do. She just listened, validated, and occasionally said things like, "That sounds incredibly painful," or "You didn't deserve that." It was the first time anyone had really seen me. In January, she invited me to Raymond's birthday dinner. In March, I went to Jade's college theater performance with them. In May, Patricia called and asked if I wanted to join their family camping trip. "I'm not really family," I'd protested. "Says who?" Patricia replied. "You're coming. Pack layers." That camping trip was where everything shifted. We were sitting around a fire late at night, just Patricia, Raymond, and me. The kids were in their tents. The woods were quiet except for crickets and the occasional snap of burning wood. "Can I tell you something?" I said suddenly. "Always." Patricia said, "I haven't talked to my parents since Thanksgiving. They've called a few times, but I didn't answer. My mom left a voicemail saying they want to clear the air at Christmas. My sister's going to be there." Raymond poked at the fire. "Do you want to go?" No, the word came out harder than I expected. "I don't want to sit there and pretend everything's fine. I don't want to be the one who has to apologize for being hurt. I don't want to smile through another holiday where I'm treated like I don't matter." Patricia was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "So don't." "What? Don't go? You're an adult, Vanessa. You get to decide who deserves access to you." She looked at me across the fire, her face soft in the orange glow. "And for what it's worth, you'll always have a place at our table. Not as a guest, as family." I started crying ugly, gasping sobs that I couldn't control. Raymond got up and put a hand on my shoulder, steady and warm. Patricia moved next to me and held me while I fell apart. "I love you both so much," I choked out. "You've been more of a family to me in 6 months than my own has been in years. We love you too," Patricia said simply, "and that's not going to change." I didn't go home for Christmas. I spent it with the Chens. My mother called on Christmas Eve and left a voicemail that I still haven't listened to. By the following spring, I was having dinner with the Chens at least once a week. I was there for Lily's choir concert, Owen's photography show, Jade's graduation. I helped Raymond reorganize the garage. I taught Patricia how to use her new smartphone. Iris started calling me her bonus sister. It was Jade who first brought up the idea. One afternoon when we were getting coffee. "Have you ever thought about making it official?" she asked. "Making what official?" "With Nana and Pop, that's what the grandkids called them. Like, legally. Adult adoption is a thing, you know." I'd laughed it off then, but the seed was planted. That summer, I met someone. His name was Ethan, a graphic novelist who'd hired me to design a book cover. He was funny, thoughtful, passionate about his work, and he had the most beautiful green eyes I'd ever seen. On our third date, he asked about my family. I told him the truth, all of it. "So the Chens are your family now?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "They are. That's beautiful," he said. And then, "Also, I'd really like to meet them." I brought Ethan to Sunday dinner 2 weeks later. Raymond interrogated him about his intentions. Patricia hugged him and whispered to me, "This one's a keeper." Jade grilled him on his feminist credentials. The twins showed him their TikTok by the end of the night. Ethan looked at me and said, "I see why you love them." We got engaged that December. I called Patricia before anyone else. "I want you to be at the wedding," I told her. "Not just as a guest. I want you and Raymond to walk me down the aisle. I want Iris as a bridesmaid. I want all of you there." Patricia was crying on the other end of the line. Oh, honey, yes, of course. Whatever you need. Actually, I said, my heart pounding. I've been thinking about what Jade said a while back, about making it official. There was a long pause. Are you saying what I think you're saying? Patricia asked carefully. I want you and Raymond to legally adopt me. I'm 34 years old, which apparently is not too old for adult adoption in Pennsylvania. I want to change my last name to Chen. I want to make it real not just in our hearts, but on paper. I want you to be my parents. My real parents. Patricia was full on sobbing now. I heard Raymond's voice in the background asking what was wrong, and Patricia saying, she wants us to adopt her, Raymond. Our Vanessa wants to be ours. The adoption process took 6 months. We filed paperwork, went to court, stood before a judge who smiled at us and said, this is the best part of my job. When it was official, Raymond pulled me into a hug and said, welcome to the family, kiddo. It's about time. Patricia framed the adoption certificate and hung it in their living room. I became Vanessa Chen, and when Ethan and I started planning our wedding, I listed Patricia Chen and Raymond Chen as my parents on every document. My mother found out about the engagement through Facebook. I'd posted a photo of the ring, and apparently one of my old high school friends had congratulated me in the comments. She called me for the first time in almost 2 years. Vanessa, it's Mom. I was in the middle of addressing wedding invitations. My hand froze over the envelope. Hi, I said flatly. I saw your post. You're engaged? Yes. Why didn't you tell us? The audacity of that question nearly made me laugh. Why would I? We're your parents, Vanessa. We deserve to know these things. Deserve. That word. You told me not to come home for Thanksgiving 2 years ago because Becca didn't want drama, I said, my voice sharp. You chose her comfort over my presence. You made it clear where I stand in this family. So no, you don't deserve to know anything about my life. My mother sucked in a breath. That's not fair. You're twisting things. I'm hanging up now. Wait, Vanessa, please. Your father and I, we miss you. We want to be part of your life. When's the wedding? We'd love to come. I looked at the invitation in front of me. Patricia and Raymond Chen request the honor of your presence at the wedding of their daughter, Vanessa Marie Chen, to Ethan Alexander Reeves. You're not invited, I said. What? You're not invited to my wedding. Neither is Becca. I'm getting married in October, and you won't be there. Vanessa, don't be ridiculous. We're your family, no, I interrupted. You're the people who share my DNA. The Chens are my family. They're the ones who showed up. They're the ones who chose me. They're the ones walking me down the aisle. The Chens? Who the hell are the Chens? The people who invited a crying stranger to Thanksgiving dinner because they couldn't stand to see someone alone on a holiday. The people who called me every week for 2 years. The people who legally adopted me 6 months ago. My real parents. The silence on the other end was deafening. You were adopted? By strangers? By my family, I corrected. My last name is Chen now. I'm not yours anymore. My mother's voice turned cold. You've lost your mind. This is insane. You can't replace us with some random people because your feelings were hurt. Goodbye, Mom. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but I felt lighter than I had in years. I didn't send them an invitation. I didn't tell them the date or the venue. As far as I was concerned, they were strangers now. The wedding was planned for October 15th at a beautiful barn venue an hour outside Philadelphia. We kept it small, about 80 people. Ethan's family, our friends, and the Chens, who'd become intertwined with my life in every possible way. Patricia helped me pick out my dress. Iris threw me a bridal shower. Jade gave a speech at the rehearsal dinner that made everyone cry. Raymond and I practiced walking down the aisle in their backyard while he told me terrible dad jokes to keep me from getting nervous. You ready for this? Raymond asked me the night before the wedding. We were sitting on his porch watching fireflies. More than ready, I said. I've never been more sure of anything. Ethan's a good man. He loves you the way you deserve. He does. I agreed. Then quieter. Thank you for everything, for choosing me. Raymond put his arm around my shoulders. Vanessa, you were easy to choose. Easiest decision we ever made. The morning of the wedding was chaos in the best possible way. Iris and Jade were in my bridal suite, helping me with my hair and makeup. Lily was running around with the photographer. Patricia was crying every 5 minutes and claiming she wasn't. "You're so beautiful," she kept saying. "My daughter is so beautiful. My daughter." Those words still made my heart swell. A T for 30. We lined up for the procession. The ceremony was outside, under a canopy of trees with leaves just starting to turn gold and red. Ethan was waiting at the altar, looking nervous and perfect in his navy suit. The music started. Iris walked down first, then Jade, then Lily. Then it was my turn. Patricia and Raymond stood on either side of me, each holding one of my arms. Patricia was crying again. Raymond squeezed my hand. "You've got this, sweetheart," he whispered. We started walking. I was halfway down the aisle when I saw them, my mother and father, standing at the very back of the ceremony space, half hidden behind a tree. My mother was in a beige dress, clutching her purse. My father looked uncomfortable in a suit I recognized from my childhood. My sister, Becca, stood next to them with her husband and 2 kids. They'd crashed my wedding. I stopped walking. Patricia and Raymond felt me freeze and looked at me with concern. "What's wrong?" Patricia whispered. I couldn't speak. I just stared at my biological family, who were staring back at me with expressions I couldn't read. Shock, maybe. Regret. Desperation. My mother took a step forward, like she was going to come to me, to say something. Raymond moved slightly in front of me, protective. "Do you want them removed?" he asked quietly. I looked at my mother, at my father, at Becca, who'd ruined Thanksgiving and never once apologized, at the family who'd made me feel small and unwanted for so many years. Then I looked at Patricia, who was my mother in every way that mattered, at Raymond, who'd taught me that fathers show up, at the family behind me, Iris, Jade, Marcus, Lily, Owen, who'd chosen me over and over again. "No," I said. "Let them stay. Let them watch." Patricia smiled at me, fierce and proud. "That's my girl." We kept walking, every step down that aisle. I felt my biological family's eyes on me, but I didn't look back. I looked at Ethan, who was crying and smiling at the same time. I looked at the life I'd built without them. The ceremony was beautiful. Ethan and I wrote our own vows. I cried through mine. "You saw me when I felt invisible," I told him. "You loved me when I was still learning to love myself. You didn't just accept my family, you embraced them. You gave me a future I didn't know I could have." When we were pronounced married, the crowd erupted in cheers. Patricia was sobbing. Raymond was trying not to sob. Everyone was hugging and laughing and celebrating. The reception was in the barn. We'd hired a DJ, decorated everything with fairy lights and autumn flowers, and planned a night of dancing and joy. That's when things got interesting. Mick, a friend of Ethan's who was hilarious and charming, took the microphone to introduce the wedding party and family. "Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the parents of the bride, Patricia and Raymond Chen." Patricia and Raymond stood up to applause. They waved, beaming. In the back corner of the reception space, I saw my mother's face go white. The MC continued. "And the parents of the groom, Susan and Harold Reeves." More applause. Then came the father-daughter dance. Traditionally, I would have danced with my biological father. Instead, I danced with Raymond. The DJ played My Girl, and Raymond spun me around the dance floor while everyone watched. He was a terrible dancer, but I didn't care. Halfway through the song, he pulled me close and said, "I'm so proud of you, Vanessa. So damn proud." When the song ended, Patricia cut in, and we danced together while half the room cried. I never looked at my biological family during any of it, but I knew they were watching. I knew they saw everything. The confrontation happened during dinner. I was at the head table with Ethan, laughing at something Jade had just said. When I felt a hand on my shoulder, I turned. My mother stood there, looking older than I remembered. Her makeup was smudged. She'd been crying. "Vanessa," she said, "can we please talk?" Every conversation around us stopped. Ethan reached for my hand under the table. Patricia was suddenly standing beside me, silent but present. "What are you doing here?" I asked calmly. "You weren't invited. Were your parents?" my mother said. "We had a right to be here." "No," I said. "You didn't." My father appeared behind her, and Becca too. The whole terrible family reunion. Vanessa, please, my father said. Let us explain. Explain what? I interrupted. Explain how you chose Becca over me for years? Explain how you told me not to come to Thanksgiving because it was easier than standing up to her. Explain how you sold our family home to her for pennies and never even asked if I wanted it. Explain how you made me feel like I was nothing. My voice was rising. People were staring. I didn't care. We made mistakes, my mother said, tears streaming down her face. But we love you. We're sorry. We want to fix this. You don't get to fix this, I said. You had years to fix this. You had hundreds of chances to choose me, to see me, to love me the way I deserved. You didn't. So I found people who did. I gestured to Patricia and Raymond, who stood with me like sentinels. These are my parents now. They chose me. They adopted me. They walked me down the aisle because they earned that right. You didn't. Becca stepped forward, her face twisted. This is insane. You can't just replace us with strangers because we hurt your feelings, your feelings. I repeated slowly. Becca, you threw me out of Thanksgiving because I asked you to parent your child. And mom and dad backed you up. That's not about feelings. That's about who I am to you. And apparently, I'm someone you can dispose of whenever it's convenient. That's not true. My mother sobbed. We love you. No, I said quietly. You love the idea of me. You love having a daughter to brag about when it suits you. But you don't love me enough to fight for me. You never did. Patricia's voice cut through the tension. I think it's time for you to leave. My mother turned to her, furious. Who the hell do you think you are? You can't kick us out. I'm her mother. Patricia said simply. And this is my daughter's wedding. You're causing a scene and upsetting her. So yes, I can ask you to leave. And I am. Raymond stepped forward too, positioning himself between my biological family and me. You heard her. Time to go. My father looked at me one last time. Vanessa, please, don't do this. I already did, I said. 2 years ago, when you told me not to come home. I chose myself. I chose better, and I'm never looking back. Security escorted them out. I watched them go, my mother crying, my father silent, Becca protesting loudly, and I felt nothing but relief. Ethan pulled me into his arms. You okay? Yeah, I said, and I meant it. I really am. The rest of the reception was perfect. We danced until midnight. We cut the cake. We laughed until our faces hurt. During the bouquet toss, I handed the flowers directly to Jade, who blushed and protested but secretly looked thrilled. Before Ethan and I left for our honeymoon, I found Patricia and Raymond sitting together at their table, watching the dance floor with contented smiles. I sat down next to them. Thank you, I said, for everything. For saving me that day at the restaurant. For loving me when I felt unlovable. For being my real family. Patricia took my hand. Vanessa, you saved us just as much. You brought so much light into our lives. Being your parents, it's the greatest honor. Raymond nodded. You're ours now. Officially and forever. Nothing's going to change that. I hugged them both, overwhelmed with gratitude and love. This was my family. These were my people. And I never felt more at home. Ethan and I went to Italy for our honeymoon. We spent 2 weeks eating pasta, exploring ruins, and talking about our future, the house we wanted to buy, the kids we maybe wanted to have someday, the life we were building together. When we came back, there were 17 voicemails on my phone, 14 from my mother, 2 from my father, 1 from Becca. I deleted all of them without listening. Patricia texted me. Welcome home, sweetheart. Sunday dinner at 5 o'clock. Iris is making her famous lasagna. I replied immediately. We'll be there. 2 months later. Ethan and I bought a house 3 miles from Patricia and Raymond. We had them over for dinner every week. We spent holidays together. When I got the flu, Patricia showed up with soup. When Raymond's car broke down, Ethan helped him fix it. This was what family was supposed to be. Not obligation. Not guilt. Not conditional love that evaporated the moment you became inconvenient. Just presence. Just choosing. Just love. I never spoke to my biological family again. My mother sent Christmas cards for the first 2 years. I returned them unopened. Becca sent an email on my birthday once, saying she wanted to reconnect. I blocked her. My father never reached out directly, but I heard through mutual acquaintances that he asked about me sometimes, that he kept a photo of me on his desk at work, that he told people his daughter was doing well, even though he had no idea if that was true. I didn't care. They'd made their choices. I'd made mine. 3 years after the wedding, Patricia was diagnosed with breast cancer. I took time off work to go to every appointment with her. I held her hand during chemotherapy. I stayed overnight at the hospital after her surgery. I researched treatment options and diet plans and support groups. Raymond and I became a team, coordinating her care, making sure she was never alone. When the cancer went into remission, we threw a party. The whole family was there, all the people who'd shown up, who'd fought alongside us, who'd chosen to be family. Patricia pulled me aside during the celebration. "You know what got me through that?" she said. "Knowing I had to get better because I couldn't miss out on being your mother. I couldn't miss your future." I cried so hard I ruined my makeup. "You're not going anywhere," I told her fiercely. "You're my mom. I need you. And you're my daughter," she said. Best thing that ever happened to me. 4 years after the wedding, Ethan and I had a daughter. We named her Patricia Iris Reeves. My mother, my real mother. The one who'd earned that title cried when we told her. She was the first person to hold baby Patty in the hospital. And I watched her cradle my daughter with the same tenderness she'd shown me. "Look at her," Patricia whispered. "She has your eyes and your spirit." I said. Raymond became the most devoted grandfather in existence. He built a crib by hand. He sang lullabies. He showed up at 3 in the morning when we were desperate and exhausted. And he just held the baby so we could sleep. This was the family I wanted for my daughter. The family I'd found for myself. Roots that chose to grow deep. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to. 5 years after the wedding, my biological mother died. A distant cousin called to tell me. "Heart attack, sudden, painless. The funeral's on Saturday," she said. "I thought you should know." I thanked her and hung up. I felt nothing, no grief, no relief, just a strange, hollow neutrality. Ethan asked if I wanted to go to the funeral. I said no. Patricia asked if I was okay. I said yes. And I was. Because the woman who'd given birth to me and the woman who'd mothered me were two different people. One had died. The other was very much alive, making pancakes with my daughter in her kitchen while singing off-key. I didn't know my biological mother my grief. I didn't know her my presence at her funeral. I didn't know her anything. She'd made sure of that. Now, at 39 years old, I look back on that phone call before Thanksgiving, the one that ended my old life and started my new one, and I feel grateful. Grateful that my biological family rejected me, because it forced me to find real love. Grateful that I was alone in that restaurant, because it led me to Patricia's table. Grateful for every painful moment that taught me what I deserved. The Chens didn't just give me a family, they gave me myself. They taught me that love isn't about biology. It's about showing up. It's about choosing someone every single day and meaning it. Last Thanksgiving, 7 years after that fateful holiday, we hosted dinner at our house. For the first time, 23 people crammed into our dining room and living room. Patricia and Raymond, of course. Iris and Marcus with the twins, who were in college now. Jade and her girlfriend. Ethan's parents. Our daughter Patty, now 3 years old, running around in a tiny turkey costume that Patricia had made her. And 3 new additions. A young couple I'd met at a coffee shop 2 months earlier. They'd just moved to Philadelphia from Ohio, knew nobody, and had nowhere to go for Thanksgiving. Sound familiar? I'd invited them without hesitation, because that's what my real family taught me. You don't leave people alone on Thanksgiving. You don't make them feel unwanted. You pull up a chair, you pour the wine, and you make room. During dinner, Patty climbed into Patricia's lap and announced to the entire table, "This is my grandma. She makes the best cookies in the whole world." Patricia kissed the top of her head, eyes shining with tears. "And you're my best girl." Raymond caught my eye across the table and raised his glass slightly. I raised mine back. No words needed. We both knew what we were toasting. To the family we'd chosen. To the love that had saved us all. After dinner, while everyone was having pie and coffee, Ethan pulled me outside onto our porch. The November air was cold, but the sky was full of stars. You happy? He asked, wrapping his arms around me from behind. I leaned back against him, looking through the window at the chaos inside, Patricia arguing with Raymond about whether to watch football or play board games, Jade and Iris laughing at something on a phone, the twins teaching Patty a TikTok dance, our new friends looking overwhelmed but delighted by all the noise and love. Yeah, I said, I really am. No regrets. About your biological family, I mean. About how everything happened. I thought about it. Really thought about it. No. I said finally. Not a single one. If they hadn't rejected me, I never would have found this. I never would have known what real family feels like. In a weird way, their cruelty was the greatest gift they could have given me. That's pretty evolved of you, Ethan said, kissing my temple. I've had good teachers. I turned to face him, and a really good husband. The best husband, he corrected with a grin. Don't push it. We stood there for a while, just holding each other, listening to the sounds of our family inside. You know what's wild? I said. My biological mother used to tell me that family was everything. That blood was thicker than water. That no matter what, you always stick with family. And she was right. Family is everything. You do stick with family no matter what. I smiled. She just didn't understand that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up, who chooses you, who loves you even when it's hard. Ethan pulled me closer. The chance showed up. They did. Every single time. So did you? He said softly. You showed up for yourself, Vanessa. You chose yourself when nobody else would. That took courage. I hadn't thought about it that way before. Maybe the real revenge wasn't the wedding, or the adoption, or even the look on my biological mother's face when she realized she'd been replaced. Maybe the real revenge was this. Building a beautiful life without them, becoming whole without their approval, finding joy in spite of their rejection, living well, inside. Patricia called out, Vanessa, Ethan, get in here. We're doing the thankful circle. We went back inside. Everyone was gathering in the living room, sitting in a big circle on the floor and the furniture. Patty immediately climbed into my lap. Patricia started. I'm thankful for this family, for every single person in this room, for second chances and new beginnings. Raymond went next. I'm thankful for my wife of 42 years, who still surprises me every day, and for our daughters, all of them. He looked at both Iris and me when he said it. Iris went. Then Marcus. Then the twins, then Jade, then Ethan's parents, then our new friends who were clearly trying not to cry. Then it was my turn. I'm thankful, I said, my voice thick with emotion, for a family who invited a stranger to dinner 7 years ago and changed her entire life. I'm thankful for people who taught me what love really means. I'm thankful for this house, this chaos, this beautiful, messy, imperfect life we've built together. I looked at Patricia, at Raymond, at every face in that room. I'm thankful that I was brave enough to walk away from people who didn't choose me, and I'm thankful that I was open enough to let in people who did. Patty tugged on my sleeve. Mama, what about me? Everyone laughed, and I'm most thankful, I added, kissing her nose. For you, baby girl, for getting to be your mama and for getting to raise you in a family that will always choose you, okay? Patty said, satisfied. She looked around the circle. I'm thankful for cookies. The room erupted in laughter and applause. Later that night, after everyone had gone home and Patty was asleep and Ethan was loading the dishwasher, I found the old photo album I kept in my office closet. I hadn't looked at it in years. It was from my childhood, photos of me and Becca as kids, of my biological parents smiling at birthday parties and holidays, of a family that looked happy from the outside. I flipped through the pages slowly. There was me at 5, gap-toothed and grinning, me at 10, playing soccer, me at 16 before prom, while my mother fussed with my dress. I looked at these photos and tried to feel something, nostalgia, anger, grief. But all I felt was distance. These people were strangers now. This life was someone else's story. I closed the album and put it back in the closet. Then I walked downstairs to where my real photo albums were, the ones filled with pictures of Patricia teaching Patty to bake, of Raymond building a treehouse in our backyard, of Thanksgiving dinners and birthday parties and ordinary Tuesdays that somehow felt sacred. This was my family. This was my story. And I was finally, completely home. 6 months after that Thanksgiving, I got a letter in the mail. It was from my biological father. I almost threw it away without reading it. But something made me open it. The letter was short, handwritten. His penmanship was shaky. He was 71 now. Vanessa, I know I have no right to contact you. I know you've moved on. And you have every reason to never want to hear from me again. I'm writing because your mother's death made me realize how much time I've wasted, how many chances I missed, how badly I failed you. You were right about everything. We chose Becca over you, again and again. We took you for granted. We broke your heart and then acted surprised when you stopped coming around. I saw you at your wedding. I saw how happy you were. I saw the way those people love you the way we should have loved you all along. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking to be part of your life. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. I'm sorry I wasn't the father you deserved. I'm sorry I let you down. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of the woman you've become. I'm proud that you were strong enough to walk away from us and find better. I hope you're happy. I hope that little girl of yours knows how lucky she is to have you as her mother. I won't contact you again. Dottie read the letter 3 times. Then I folded it, put it back in the envelope, and placed it in a drawer. I didn't cry. I didn't feel vindicated or angry or sad. I just felt complete. He'd said sorry. He'd acknowledged what he'd done. It didn't change anything, didn't undo the years of pain or make me want him back in my life, but it was something. A period at the end of a very long sentence. I never wrote back. But sometimes, late at night when I can't sleep, I think about that letter, about my father, alone in whatever home he lives in now, carrying the weight of his choices. I don't forgive him, but I don't hate him either. I've just let go. Because here's what I've learned. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. My biological family already took enough from me. I wasn't going to give them my peace to Dada, so I chose to be happy instead. I chose to love the people who love me back. I chose to build something beautiful out of the ashes of what I lost, and every single day, I wake up grateful. Grateful for that phone call 7 years ago that broke my heart. Grateful for the loneliest Thanksgiving of my life. Grateful for a stranger in a burgundy sweater who saw me crying and refused to look away. Grateful for a family that chose me when I needed choosing most. Grateful for revenge that looks like joy. If you're reading this and you've been rejected by your biological family, if you've been made to feel small or unwanted or like you don't matter, please know this. You deserve better. You deserve people who choose you, who see you, who love you not in spite of who you are, but because of it. And sometimes finding those people means walking away from the ones who were supposed to love you first. It's scary. It's painful. It feels like you're giving up or being dramatic or overreacting. But you're not. You're saving yourself. You're making room for real love to find you. And when it does, when you find your people, your real family, the ones who show up and stay, you'll understand why you had to lose everything first. Because some gifts only come wrapped in loss. Some families only arrive after you've been brave enough to leave the wrong one. Some homes only appear after you've stopped trying to force your way into houses that were never meant to be yours. Last week, Patty asked me about my other grandparents. You mean Grandma Patricia and Grandpa Raymond? I asked. No, your mom and dad. From when you were little. I paused, considering how to answer. I had parents when I was young, I said carefully, but they weren't very good at being parents. So when I grew up, I found better ones. You can do that? Patty's eyes went wide. Yes, baby. You can choose your family. But I already have the best family, she said matter-of-factly, so I don't need to find new ones. I pulled her into a hug, my heart nearly bursting. No, sweet girl, you really don't. Because I'd already done the hard work. I'd already found the family worth keeping, and I was giving her something I never had. A childhood full of people who would choose her. every single day. No matter what, that was my real revenge. Not the wedding, not the adoption, not even the look on my biological mother's face. My revenge was breaking the cycle. My revenge was healing. My revenge was this. A daughter who would never know what it feels like to be unchosen by the people who were supposed to love her most. A daughter who would grow up knowing, bone deep, that she matters, that she's wanted, that she's enough. A daughter who would never have to find a new family because the one she was born into was already everything it should be. That's what I built from the ruins of my rejection, and it was worth every painful step it took to get here. So this is my story. The story of how Don't Come Back. Your sister doesn't want you there became the beginning of the best chapter of my life. The story of how the worst Thanksgiving of my life led me to every beautiful Thanksgiving that came after. The story of how losing a family gave me the chance to find the right one. If you're still with me, thank you for listening. Thank you for witnessing this journey. And if you see someone eating alone at a restaurant on Thanksgiving or any day, maybe pull up a chair, maybe invite them to your table. You never know whose life you might change. You never know what family you might find.